January. So hopefully when you went to register on our website, you saw that there's registration links for all the other trainings as well. We have trainings on child welfare system, self-sufficiency services, intellectual and developmental disabilities, juvenile justice, behavioral health, navigating the CCO system. I might be missing one there, but special education. And the registration is still open for those, so please register for more of those and join us. Just a little housekeeping to get you started here. We're going to have everybody on mute throughout the training. The format is 30 minutes of presentation about there, and then 25 minutes or so for questions and answer. Type your questions into the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat throughout the training, so you can type them as you go, and I'll cut and paste them onto a Word document, and then I'll start, when we do the question and answer part, I'll read those out loud to the presenter, and she will answer those as best she can. If she needs some clarification from you, she might ask you to either type or unmute yourself and share verbally. We are being recorded. All of this training will be recorded. We're going to post the training on our website following the training today. And so it's available as a training resource in the future for folks who couldn't make it today. We'll also be posting a FAQ document on the website so that all the questions you have can have answers in a written format there. We'll email you about that after the training. Let's see what else. We just wanted to share a little bit about who System of Care is. So System of Care is a regional cross-system collaboration of youth, families, and system leaders who work collaboratively to improve the services and supports available to children, youth, and families in our region. We're working together to ensure that all the services are well-coordinated, youth and family-driven, community-based, and culturally and linguistically responsive. We have multiple work groups working on various projects. The work groups start with barriers being submitted to us from you and from youth, from families, from community partners. So with that, I wanted to share just real quick about our website. You can check out their website at www.systemofcare.net. On there, there's System of Care training resources. There's links to sort of resources that'll help you learn more about how to navigate services on there. There's also a page where you can submit a system barrier that you think is getting in the way of youth and family success. Are the services not culturally and linguistically responsive? Send us a barrier. Are you having issues with access, with quality of care? Send us a barrier. And then there's also a little bit of info on the website about how to get involved if you'd like to join one of our groups. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Abby Bush. Abby is going to share a little bit about who she is and then jump into providing the information. So thanks everyone again for joining us, and thanks Abby for all the work you did to create this great presentation.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm really excited. I think, Brian, you need to stop sharing. Great. Share computer sound. Okay, I think we are in business. You can all see my screen? Perfect. Thanks for the thumbs up. So hi, everybody. I'm Abby Bush. I'm the program manager for Help Me Grow Oregon. Help Me Grow is a resource and referral program for the early childhood sector, along with some parenting, coaching, and navigation support. And thanks very much for this invitation to share about the sector with all of you. So what I can do in the next 30 minutes is provide a fast overview of Oregon's early care and education system, which runs from birth to age 5. What I can't do is provide details on how to access all of the programs that'll be mentioned, but there will be a solution for navigation support at the end of this overview. So in 2014, the Early Learning Division was created at the state. It was the first time that the early years had a seat at the statewide table. It's governed by the Cross-Sector Early Learning Council of volunteers and led by Miriam Calderon, who came back to Oregon in the summer of 2017. Last year, the first strategic plan for early learning in Oregon was created, running through 2023 with 3 broad goals: that children arrive ready for kindergarten, children are raised in healthy, stable, and detached families, and that the early learning system is aligned, coordinated, and family-centered. On a local level, the building of the coordinated system among partners listed on that flower graphic is the charge of the county-based early learning hubs that I am helping to represent today. So why are the early years so important? Children are really born ready to learn, and a child's experiences during the earliest years of life have a lasting impact on the architecture of the developing brain. Genes provide a basic blueprint, but experiences are what shape the process that determines whether a child's brain will provide a strong or weak foundation for all future learning and behavior and health. So during the first years, billions of brain cells called neurons are sending electrical signals to communicate with each other. These connections form circuits that become the basic foundation of the brain's architecture. So these neurons and the synapses, the lines between the neurons, that kind of spider web you see, make 1 million new connections every second, and they're reinforced through repeated use. So the connections that are used more often grow stronger and more permanent, and the connections that are used less fade away through a normal process called pruning. And these connections are the building block for emotions, motor skills, behavior control, logic, language, memory, all of that happening in the first years of life. And brains are really built up over time, as we see, with neural circuits wired kind of in a bottom-up sequence. They're interconnected, but providing a foundation for more complex circuits to build on later, much like building a house. So here we've got, the newborn, not too many spider webs in there making the connections, but keep this picture of the 6-month brain in your head as we talk about the first 2,000 days, which is when there are huge developments in the person's brain. Things are happening faster than they ever will again. And so the brain is gathering all of this information, but it's really inefficient for our brains to have so much unverified information like we saw in that 6-month slide. So the pruning starts to take place where that jumble of information that's been collected about experiences are validated and verified, and those stay. And the other synapses that were created with just one piece of information start to fall away. It's removing the weaker structures to allow the stronger connections to continue growing and developing. And this happens in phases, as shown in this graph, starting with seeing and hearing, then responsive and expressive communication, and finally higher cognitive function, really kind of peaking, synapse development peaking at about 1 year of age. You've probably heard about the 4th trimester, that 0 to 3 month period for babies, and how babies kind of wake up at the end of that 3-month period. Well, we see that in the graph here on the orange line. That's when seeing and hearing really starts to come alive. And so that's when babies wake up. And so the brain reaches about 80% of its adult size by age 3 and 90% by age 5. And the capacity for change decreases with age. So parents and other caregivers can support healthy brain growth by speaking to and playing with and caring for their child. The key to forming this strong brain architecture is what's known as serve and return interaction with adults. Children learn best when parents take turns with talking and playing and building on their child's skills and interests. And nurturing a child by understanding their needs and responding sensitively helps to protect children's brain from stress. So I'm going to show this short video and we'll be back in less than 3 minutes.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby, who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, "Come on, why aren't we doing this?" Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it. They actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The
Great. So that's one example of the serve and return mimicking baby sounds and gestures and facial expressions from a clinical setting. Now let's see what some great serve and return can look like at home. One more short video to share with you.
Okay. They need to work on that, right? Yes. Okay. Did you understand it though? No. Okay. All right. Huh? Oh, no, not this one. This is the grand finale of this. Yeah, that's the last one. That's what I was wondering. I don't know what they're gonna do next season because they did some stuff this time. Exactly what I was thinking. Oh yeah. Right. Don't bring that again. You know what I'm saying? Don't do the same stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah. Yeah. Like go somewhere else with that, but don't bring it here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's what I said. And then it was like, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, what in the world? But don't do it here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Really? I thought the same thing. We think a lot alike, huh? Oh, that's crazy. Right.
So I just wanted to share that because I mean that dad is just knocking it out of the park in his serve and return. Mimicking the sounds that the babies make, the tones the baby's using, the gestures and the facial expressions. This is responsive caregiving that is really laying a great foundation for that baby's future brain development. Okay, so now, given what we know about when brain development happens, when do we invest in young children? We wait until the brain's architecture is pretty solidified. it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The orange line on this graph shows public education investment, and the blue line shows that rapid brain development curve. Less than 10% of Oregon's combined federal and state investment in children's education occurs before the age of 5. But state investments from cradle to career accrue gradually in the first 5 years and then increase rapidly once a child enters kindergarten. And this is really inconsistent with what we know about brain science. And advocates and economists have been trying for years to make the case that early investment will give us the greatest return possible. And there are many resources that I can connect you with if you're interested in geeking out about that. You know, while these years represent a remarkable period of opportunity, they're also a period of intense vulnerability, and adverse conditions such as inadequate nutrition, housing challenges, exposure to toxic substances, poor maternal health, or a lack of nurturing relationships can have a lasting impact on the developing brain, even if a child's circumstances are improved later in childhood. And I think this makes the case for investments in the early years even more compelling. Oregon is home to over 275,000 children 0 to 5, and racial, geographic, and economic disparities emerge very early. On this graph, the teal bars represent the percent of the under 5 population, and the navy bars show the percent of that population living in poverty. And income, race, and zip code are powerful predictors of whether children and their families experience the conditions that are optimal for young child's development. And nearly 50,000 young children in Oregon live in poverty. And just as a reminder, this is a family of 3 that earns $20,780 a year. And of course, we know that children of color are disproportionately represented among young children in poverty. And the toxic stress that this can bring on can really derail healthy development. And without caring adults to buffer children, this unrelenting stress caused by poverty and neglect, abuse, or severe maternal depression can weaken the architecture of the developing brain, with long-term consequences for learning and behavior and both physical and mental health. And so breaking the link to improve a child's life outcome can only happen if we can change the circumstances by changing the distribution of opportunities in those years. And so we try to break that through a whole series of investments through ECE and other complementary family services and supports to prepare children for kindergarten by addressing their health and educational, social, and emotional needs. And services are provided in a tiered manner. And as we transition into the supports that are available for families, there are a lot of agencies and sectors that have significant impacts on young children and families, not included in the early care and learning sector. So like healthcare and food assistance program and housing, public health, self-sufficiency, all of these are really vital services that comprise the full universe of supports for families. But now we're going to turn specifically to the early care and learning sector. So how do these investments happen? Funds come from the federal government, state, and local sources, including the most local being parents' pockets. And I know that some of you on this call know these programs very well, and this is going to be a high-level overview of the supports available for families. I'm going to dive into early learning settings today a bit deeper, as it's a great example of a sector of early childhood that has wildly complex access points for families. And there are a lot of terms for early learning settings: childcare, daycare, preschool, grandma camp, family friend and neighbor care. But early learning is a great way to describe it, because we know that no matter where the child is, they are learning during the first years of life. And so why is early learning so important? Nearly 2/3 of children under 5 have either both parents or a single parent employed. 1.3 billion is spent on early care and education in Oregon each year, and 72% of that is directly financed by parents. Also, for children birthed to, the entire state of Oregon is a child care desert, defined as a place where there are more than 3 children for every available child care slot. Things improve only slightly as children age, and for all children under 5, 27 of Oregon's 36 counties are considered a child care desert. And at the same time, only 15% of children eligible for subsidized childcare programs are currently being served through the state and federal subsidy programs like Head Start, Oregon Pre-Kindergarten, employment-related daycare, and others. And these have very strict eligibility limits. And when you couple all of that with the median price of full-time childcare for an infant is about $14,500 a year, substantially more than the cost of public college tuition. More than 24,000 people work in the early care, work as early learning providers in 2018, with a big majority of them based at centers or large home care settings. But the median wage for these providers is still just $12 to $17 per hour. Home-based childcare providers typically earn less. There is a lot more information and detail in a December 2019 report from the Early Learning Division and the Oregon Child Care Research Partnership at Oregon State University called the State of Early Care and Education and Child Care Assistance in Oregon. So this is just a quick peek at some of the criteria for the subsidy programs in Oregon. This is just part of the table taken from that report I just mentioned. Just wanted to point out a couple of details. In the Head Start column, it shows that we're reaching 62.5% of eligible children. That's great. But remember, this is available for families with incomes below the federal poverty level, so under $21,000 for a family of 3. To the left of that is a column for the Preschool Promise program, which is relatively new and is open to families making up to 200% of the federal poverty level. But there we're just reaching 3.25% of those children. So the Preschool Promise is a great start at helping us reach some of those lower and middle income families to provide high quality early learning experiences. And this fall, the Early Learning Hubs are coordinating enrollment for Preschool Promise slots, and links to their sites will be provided at the end and how to reach them and get more information about that. Okay, moving on to early intervention and early childhood special education. These are therapies to really help support a child's growth and development that are very specific to that child. The counties run programs or various agencies within each county. They are free, and once a child qualifies, and they are really focusing on the different domains of a young child's development. So we're talking about social emotional skills, how children play, how they respond to other children or adults, adaptive skills, kind of those self-help skills like putting on clothes, putting on shoes, how they feed themselves. Cognitive skills, what and how a child learns and problem solves. Motor skills, both fine motor, how they use small muscles, like for pinching and grasping objects with fingers, and gross motor, which is a child's larger muscle groups that help support climbing and running and jumping and crawling. Communication is also a huge piece, both expressive language, how a child is communicating out with gestures, words, sign language, and receptive language about how they're understanding language that's being used around them. So understanding directions or words and signs and gestures they can understand. And for children with special healthcare needs, there is support through the Developmental Disability Services, which provide the county-based case management and connection to other services. And these are available to support children with Down syndrome, autism spectrum disorders, cerebral palsy, and other conditions. Those are accessible through the county and a great resource for families dealing with those special healthcare needs. We also have home visiting programs. This is a huge area of support for families with a new arrival. The programs listed here are the various program models, all evidence-based, and are run by different agencies in each county and have varying referral criteria. Some programs are able to start in the prenatal period. Some have enrollment that can happen up to many months after a baby is born. And they have different criteria for who is the staff member completing the home visit. Some require a nurse, some have trained community members. And one thing that I will note about the home visiting sector in this area is that cultural specificity and matching a home visitor to the family's culture is really a big priority that we see in this early learning space. And then there are some programs that are very specific, like the Healthy Birth Initiative in Multnomah County, designed to support Black women and their partners through perinatal home visiting, blending many of these different programs together to provide that long-term support for that family. Parenting education and early literacy program are also a big part of what's offered through early care and learning sector. Parenting education offers an opportunity for caregivers to build skills around parenting practices, learn about children's developmental milestones, and build community with other parents. Events and classes can take many forms. There are some single sessions on specific topics like potty training or screen time moderation, but there are also curriculum-based classes that meet over multiple sessions, and ongoing support groups as well. Some of these classes blend parenting skills and early literacy concepts, and many of these made a pretty smooth transition in COVID times to online supports and services. And we are extremely lucky in the Portland metro area that we have a wide variety of programs provided by culturally specific organizations for their communities. And in addition, some of those are supplemented by various helper roles, such as family resource coordinators and community education workers that exist in some areas of our region, but not all. So that's been a lot of talking, and I'm wondering if you're overwhelmed yet about how all of these puzzle pieces fit together. Parents are also overwhelmed, as are service providers like you sometimes that are working to support young children and families. But there is a resource to help navigate these systems, the Help Me Grow program. We exist to help mask the complexity of the system for caregivers and support both parents and service providers who are looking for connections to resources and new ideas on how to support young child's growth and development. So Help Me Grow is a national model to support the early detection of developmental or behavioral concerns, providing system navigation and ultimately a more seamless system of supports for young children and their families. Through a centralized phone line, we offer parenting coaching and connections to community resources for the families of young children. We are based at the Swindells Resource Center at Providence, which supports children with special health care needs and their families through adulthood, but all Help Me Grow services are free and open to the public. If anyone is interested in learning more about Help Me Grow and the services and ways that we can partner, I would love that. And you can contact me through this information here. And these are the connection points for the early learning hubs in each county. We know that cross-sector collaboration is a really essential factor to achieve successful outcomes for children and families and their communities, as everyone here knows, which is why you're participating in this System of Care Collaborative. Please do reach out, and I'm really looking forward to hearing all of your questions.
Okay. Thank you so much, Abby. We're ready to do some Q&A here. And so I've collected from the chat all the questions. Folks can keep sending some more in as we go here, but I'll just be reading these out to Abby, and we can explore some answers. So the first question comes from Danielle Cruz. Danielle says, I would love some parenting class resources for families involved with child welfare. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there is the, its name is escaping me, the LINK program. I'm looking for nods. I will get the name. There is a special class and support group that is offered, and its name is escaping me at this second, but it is offered through the state DHS office. Those programs have transitioned to online as well, and so we will find that and put that up in the FAQ at the end.
Great, yeah. So another person down here at the bottom of the chat just shared that they found a parenting class via the Parenting Together website. So
yeah,
that's a good resource.
Yeah, both of the Clackamas Parenting Together and Parenting Together Washington County have fantastic calendars of events. Super easy to be able to click through to see when things are happening and get all of the registration details. Those classes, some are able to be very age specific. So, a class for toddlers or preschoolers, and then some that they offer have different or more population specific. And so, a class called Nurturing Hope is for families with children with special healthcare needs. And so those are areas that you can dive into to find more specifics, and happy to help navigate that as well.
Yeah, and I'll just hop in here real quick and just say, like, a lot of these resources can be found by using the 211 website, or just dialing 211. The 211 does have a lot of information about these kind of things and can share that with you. So yeah, just sharing that. Next one, does Volunteers of America offer parenting classes for DHS involved parents?
Potentially through their Family Relief Nursery. And I know that that may be an option. But parents are able to take classes in a wide variety of settings. I would have to check and see what VOA is currently offering right now. There's not as much of a centralized location to find parenting classes in Multnomah County yet, although there is hope that that'll be changing in the next few months.
Great. Let's see what else. Is there a directory of services with contact information that is accessible on the internet?
Not really, in part because this information and the program availability changes really rapidly. If you are interested in trying to find a Head Start program for a child, you have to try to navigate both cultural specificity, because there are some programs that do that, and the location of which Head Start program operates in which geographic region. It's really complicated, and so we that's part of what Help Me Grow does, is ask all of the right questions to get you pointed to the right area, because unfortunately resources are not often, it's not very transparent where and how to access the resources.
So you'd maybe recommend Help Me Grow as the first starting point for that.
Oh, sorry, Brian, I was having trouble hearing you.
Oh, I was just saying, it sounds like Help Me Grow might be it's not internet based, but it's a great resource to use for that purpose.
Right.
Okay. Someone is asking, are there home visits happening currently in the time of COVID? Wondering how to sell that to parents when the home visit portion seems like it wouldn't really be happening.
Right. Home visits are happening virtually, and the home visiting programs are adapting to parent preference. So some are wanting to, do video calls and are comfortable with popping on a, FaceTime type call with their home visitor to check in about the baby's growth and development. Others are preferring phone calls, which the staff is able to do as well. And, of course, the hope is that we can be offering some, in-person services again, but things don't look like that's going to be turning around immediately. And so the home visiting programs are really working to try to continue those connections and offer some additional ways that families that are enrolled in a Healthy Families program, for example, can meet and connect with other parents as well, because this has just been such an isolating time, particularly if you have a new baby at home. You can't get out and meet folks nearly as much as you've been able to. And so some of that community building that's really important for new parents has been pretty hard. But all of the home visiting programs are really working to make sure that they're promoting that and adapting as much as possible to meet the needs of parents.
Next question is related. It says, how are parents being supported with virtual learning this year due to COVID-19?
Yeah, Janelle, I wonder if you might be able to pop on and offer a little bit more. Are you talking about in preschool age or for the K-12 system?
Well, both, because I know that virtual learning is happening all the way from early childhood, like the ESD. I have 2 roommates that work for ESD, and they're doing virtual learning from home here and with using Google Classroom. But I hear a lot that the parents are struggling not only with the technology, but also with like getting their children to engage in the online virtual learning. So are there supports, like are there things out there that parents can call or reach out to get support with helping their children with virtual learning?
Yeah, it's, this medium is certainly not great for us to be able to create relationships, and certainly not for young children. And so, I think the best recommendation is to recommend that parents connect with their individual teacher to try to work out a collaborative plan together. If something isn't working for your kiddo, to try a different time of day or a different way to connect, maybe just doing over the phone, perhaps. But I think the best first idea is to connect with the teacher or the educator or therapist who already hopefully knows the kiddo. But yeah, ultimately it is not working great for everyone. It certainly is for some kids, and that's fantastic. But connecting with teachers is a good first place to start.
Yeah, and I hear you. I hear what you're saying, and also what I'm hearing from parents is that the teachers are so overwhelmed with everything as well that it is hard to connect with that teacher. So I was just wondering if there was other resources to get help.
Yeah, certainly some groups like the Autism Society of Oregon are producing some toolkits and ideas and sharing ways to try to help support kiddos with an autism spectrum disorder to engage. Um, but overall, it's really complicated because it's working for some kids who, maybe got shouted down a lot. And so having a blanket recommendation for supports is pretty challenging. So that's why I think, trying to connect and, being as flexible as possible, but then also reaching out to administrators if if teachers aren't having the time to make those individual connections, talk to the principal at the school or a supervisor to say, how can we work on this together so this time that we are putting in and all of this energy to try to engage online is useful and getting us some results.
Yeah. It's a theme throughout all of our trainings is be persistent and call up the chain of command.
Right.
Start with who you can and assume they did the best that they could, and then call above them and say, be strengths based, but share that you still have needs.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And let's see, next one. Could you share what you know about childcare available to foster families and foster children? I believe the children in foster care are eligible for Head Start. Are there other early learning or childcare programs for foster families?
Head Start, you are right. Head Start is it. And that is the, kind of the gold standard and highest quality option available. So certainly we can help navigate to a Head Start program that's available in that family's area. That is the only one that I know of specifically available, kind of sector-wide.
Can families participate in early intervention and early Head Start at the same time, or is it one or the other?
Yeah, you can do both at the same time. Early intervention, it tends to be pretty focused on a specific developmental goal for a child. So, pretty individualized therapies. Early Head Start, is combining some of that work, but with a real educational focus through the home visits that are provided. But yes, you can go ahead and be enrolled in both.
I am working with a mom of 2 teens. She would like a group or class that would support her with parenting teenagers. She's a Multnomah County parent.
Yes. Oh, parenting teens is a common question. I'll need to do a little more research on that. I focus more on the younger kiddos, but Amber would be happy to, if you want to drop your email in, I can try to figure out what the best resource would be for you for that.
Yeah, I know in Washington County, you could look on the Parenting Together website and there would have those resources. So hopefully that website in Multnomah County will be up soon.
Yeah.
And we have been seeing some folks putting resources in the chat, which is awesome. So if anybody knows a resource for that, share it here. Next one is, what are some of the community partners that are offering culturally specific services or parenting classes?
Yeah, so gosh, the list is pretty extensive. So in Multnomah County, the Latino Network has a great early childhood program called Juntos Aprendimos, SEI, Black Parent Initiative, NEA, El Programa Hispano. IRCO offers a ton of classes for the populations that they work with. Oh, I see. The Pathfinders is a great resource for justice-involved families and their classes. Let's see, moving to Washington County. Adelante Mujeres is great, as is the Oregon Child Development Coalition. Centro Cultural offers some programming, and there are some smaller organizations as well in Washington County that are available. In Clackamas, Northwest Family Services has a great variety of programs, and further out in Clackamas, Todos Juntos is also available once you get to the Estacada Sandy area. And Ruben, if there is someone that you are interested in connecting, I'm happy to do some additional research and try to find the right resource for the family that you're supporting.
Thank you. Okay. Parents with open DHS cases or that are on probation in the Portland area can, oh, that's somebody's resource, can be referred to the Pathfinder Network. Great. Can families that are experiencing homelessness participate in home visits, but at a park or a day shelter?
Yeah, I think generally that is an option. In Washington County, the Healthy Families Program is now working with Coffee Creek Correctional Facility. So they are really adaptable and able to support and meet families where they are to provide those services. I'm happy to make a connection to the specific program in your area, Elizabeth, and we can try to help problem solve some of those ideas. There may also be other locations that a family might be able to connect at, at a hospital perhaps, or another county office.
Are there childcare supports for kids who are school age but are distance learning? Some of the clients I have recently been working with are staying out of work and having no income because there's no one else to watch their kids.
Yes, the school districts have been trying various options, running up against a number of challenges about gatherings. There are some private childcare places that are offering kind of supported distance learning. I know OMSI is doing one because they have a lot of space, and so they're able to keep kids fairly distanced. But yes, it is such a challenge that people are having to drop out of the workforce, and we know what that means, the cascading crisis that this pandemic is causing. Oh, and it looks like Brittany has a resource. Depending on the age of the students, you can reach out to Youth Era. They have a student support Zoom meeting that helps access their education online. The Multnomah County Library and other libraries are also offering some type of support for distance learning, but it is not quite the same as knowing that there's a really safe and supported environment like a school to be able to send your child to.
And someone who says here that there are resources through Hillsborough School District. So this is financial support to cover the cost of childcare through either Hillsborough School District, Tualatin Tigard School District. I also just got an email yesterday that Beaverton School District is also doing this. So this is like, I think, at least at Beaverton, they're giving like $1,400 a month to families who need help paying for childcare right now. So I'm not sure about the other two counties. Looks like someone shared another resource here. PPS has partnered with daycare providers. There's some financial assistance there. So I would say reach out to school districts and ask about help paying for childcare. And when you're researching the childcare locations that they provide, maybe some of those will offer some support in accessing education. I'm sure they're thinking of that stuff if you've got school-age children in a childcare.
Yeah, and school districts generally do have a childcare type office that, you know, during regular times would be operating the aftercare and before care programs. And so those may be good resources. You know, I think each district probably calls it something slightly different. So unfortunately, I can't give you the exact words to use when looking on a school district website, but districts do have someone that's working on all of those.
Someone mentioned calling 211 for childcare. Yeah, I think we're at the end of our questions. If we have a few more minutes, if anyone wants to add a question in. I know there were some questions about, you know, I think this comes up. This is why you came, right? You want those resources and you want it to be in a format that is usable and easy. And as I think what we're going to kind of, the theme across all of our systems is it's not as well organized and coordinated as we would like. And, you know, we hoped originally to do this in person and help people make personal connections, because we know that a big part of doing this kind of case management and social work kind of connecting is all about who you know. So, you know, unfortunately, that's not an option. We're all here on computers. But we do, you know, we do have Help Me Grow, which is connecting you to real people who are experts in this field and can really connect you there. We also have our System of Care website, which is, I would say, our like small attempt at putting as many resources as we can up about each system. Go through all the different pages, because like you could be on the early care page, but then you need to be on the education page to see some resources around education. So click around in there. Feel free, there's an email address where it says, like, you know, to connect with us. If you feel like something's missing and you wish that we were providing some other links in there, please let us know. We want to make that website pretty user friendly, of course. Yeah, and that's what we have for today. I don't see any additional questions. I see someone else just popped on with a resource that you can read there. Any last thoughts, Abby?
No, thank you so much. Sorry, that was a lot of talking. And, you know, we know that these early childhood systems are not very transparent, and there's no one-stop shop to get all of the services that you need to connect a family to. And so that's why we are here to help you do some of that navigation and let us keep up to date on all of that information that's changing day by day.
All right, I think we will wrap this up, and of course, 100% thanking Abby for her presentation and all the work she did to create this, and thanking all of you for joining us. Looks like we had, I think, around 88 people here, and yeah, so this was great. We'll be posting on our website the video, and we'll also email you out a copy of the video. Somebody asked about presentation slides. Abby, is that okay if we send those out as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send you a copy of the final version.
Great, cool. Well, if anybody wants to unmute themselves and you know, say thank you to Abby, this would be a good time to, we can all do like reminds me of my second grader in her class at the end. It's just like a lot of yelling. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
For your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Can I ask a quick question? I don't know if I missed it, but will the PowerPoint be going out to folks just because you have really good information in that?
Yeah, we'll email that out for sure.
Fantastic. Great. Thanks to all of you.
Thanks, and I'll make a PDF of the slides right now and send those along to you to distribute.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks, Abby.